names. Don't name names. Now we're on tape.
So I did some listening to Tony Parsons over the last several days, just some podcasts.
Uh-huh. Tony.
I like him. I mean, he's better than the average bear. It seems to be, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, it can be very annoying to listen to somebody like that because anything the questioner may bring up is the same answer every time, you know.
It can be. Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah, that can be kind of infuriating, this wholesale negation.
I heard him with a large audience, and
Uh-huh.
they just had questioning about walking up to the mic.
Really?
And geez, oh man,
How did they come up with all those questions?
I don't know. They must have edited it, but it was some pretty smooth editing.
Mm.
But because you couldn't really tell. Either that or they were just literally passing. But I mean, he's a wholesale discount.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, of course, you know, but you know, that's hard. That's hard to do.
How did people in the audience respond to his replies?
Well, with a certain level of distant curiosity. I mean,
Thanks,
you know,
but
like,
I don't get it.
well, I mean, there was a mix. There was all over the place, but there was a lot of like, so what do you do then if there is no me? You know, it's that kind of thing. You know.
Ah, it's silly.
You know, so
Yeah, I know.
it was hard for people because he will correct just in your phrasing. You know, he'll correct.
Yeah, your phrasing, right.
So, you know, it's, but I mean, that's where he's coming from. He's coming from, you know, some place that's, he's very pure about it. He's not gonna like go halfway, you know, just to sort of dry in.
Uh-huh.
He's just gonna go right to where he is.
Right.
Talking those kinds of things, so. But, I can appreciate that.
What did it do for you?
I just heard somebody else saying a similar kind of thing. It's always a good thing. You know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
You know, this total discounting of the dream, and every single aspect of it. I mean, that's a big deal. You know, and but that's what we do here. But it seems as though there's not even playing anymore.
Yeah. I mean, Tony Parsons is still playing in the dream. You know, he can claim as much not me, not self, non-existence of da-da-da-da-da as he wants. But, you know, that phrasing is occurring in, right, the repartee of the dream. So, of course, it has an exciting and an infuriating element. I mean, refutation is, you know, it's handy up to a point. But then it becomes another philosophical fetish.
I don't know anything about his reputation. I just
Refutation.
reputation.
I know his reputation is terrible no matter how you look at it. Refutation. Yeah. I mean,
Well, I mean, for for a lot of people, that's a little too strong. But I think after a while, you hear enough of those. You know where he's coming from.
Yes, but it's not about him,
Well, okay, but I
right?
mean, your understanding, or your.
Well, that's just it. Is your understanding about your own firsthand experience, or is it about his experience or his so-called lack of experience?
I guess it opens the door where if there's still doubts and clinging on, this
Right.
is one more example of seeing
Yeah,
a case where where that has been dropped,
I see. Right.
supposedly.
Yeah. Why not?
And that can't hurt.
Right. It can hurt to be generally reinforcing that something might be going on with these crazy fuckers.
Reinforcing the negation.
Yeah. Right. But the funny thing is that, negation doesn't get you anywhere. Positing stuff, it doesn't get you anywhere. It's not like Tony Parsons did a thing about a thing for him to, soften into this understanding, whatever understanding he has. I mean, he was an avid seeker, right? I mean, he had an Osho background and all kinds of other stuff. He was no slouch, right? Like everyone else. Obviously, there's no reason to reinforce it or biographicalize it. So what does that leave us with? The simple statement of present experience is without self. Thank you, Tony.
Like they say, it's pretty repetitive.
Yeah, right. I think the challenge is that how do you embark upon or participate in, let's say, a firsthand discovery of that revelation or the implication of that revelation? That's the question. Because you have your present, right? You have your present experience or experiencing at hand, and if you enjoy sojourning in a lofty philosophical manner, you can ask that question: what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Well, I found it helpful because
Tony Parsons.
when you speak to me,
Mm.
when I get tangled up in, and we'll call it the self, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. But you'll know that I'm in the story, and I won't.
Mm.
I'd be like, I only know when I get out of the story.
Uh-huh.
When I'm in the story, I'm like, da, 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 da.
Right.
I'm Goldilocks and I'm in the story
That's right.
until I'm not. So, but
Who
I
did,
find
who did Goldilocks have a problem with?
the bears.
Bears, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who's been sleeping in my bed? Uh-huh.
But I feel that at least regarding me, you have to be repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a pretty big difference in the way we do it here, and I really appreciate that difference, because if I had to go to a Tony Parsons meeting and he did that at every meeting, well, I wouldn't be going to too many of those meetings.
No, you wouldn't.
it's just too much. Because you're sort of getting talked at after a while. I mean, and people, this stream of people that ask questions and stuff like that, it's like, whatever.
Mm.
But, it's, and that's the format. I understand that. Maybe it's not like that in these little groupings or whatever. If you do
Right.
such thing, who knows?
Yeah.
But it would be difficult to endure that level.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So let me out of here. Let me just sit somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
But I looked him up because what's her name? Enduro, or that gal, that Japanese gal,
Novato.
Novato.
Nohara.
So yeah.
I don't remember.
But so when that came up, and I think you mentioned that he was her guru.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. She's an awakened devotee then of Tony Parsons?
Evidently, I thought you said that. Maybe somebody else.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I didn't say it, but
Mhm.
so that's why she's on the It's Just Happening trip.
Yeah. Oh well, evidently, presumably,
Oh.
Yeah.
and she did mention it a couple times. So.
Yeah. Well, they're not wrong. Whatever that means. They're not
Hey,
wrong.
that's saying something.
That's,
I guess.
yeah.
Beth, the lights are okay, hon.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they're fine. Thank you.
I don't like that tone.
I mean, I set the lights a certain way because, like, we're broadcasting the thing, and then you turn the lights
That's
down,
right.
and then it's just a gray shade. But no, have it your way. That's fine. No, that's all right.
There's
No, I know
many
you
viewers online.
need to have something to do. It gets pretty boring around
I
here.
might be laying down and then.
Well,
the
if you're
lights
gonna
go
talk about
up.
Tony
We need-
Parsons, then yeah, we're gonna start fucking with the lights.
Fucking with 30 persons.
People are trying to snooze Jeff.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's
Looking up.
don't pay any attention to me.
The transmission.
That's right. Yeah.
He wants them to see his Amr Fudd clearly.
It's very expensive for people to subscribe to this channel, and you don't want to just turn the lights down on them.
Dark alley here. I made you some tea.
Hey, thanks.
Tea for the teacher.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
Tea and beer.
I just finished my beer, so the timing couldn't be better.
You can mix them.
You can mix them.
Tea beer.
You could probably put some cider in there.
Yep.
More if you want it.
I used to drink vodka with tea.
Mmm.
If you do it that way, it's not as bad.
It's medicinal. Medicinal.
Like scotch and tea.
Scotch and tea.
Teetotally. And it was my teetotal.
Oh, a remedy.
Yeah, the default consciousness and entertains itself incessantly through projection and presumes that this projection, which is being asserted in mental space, which includes somatic space too, emotional, mental, somatic space. The presumption is that this projection turns out to be, what I am, or is that Nostradamus guy again?
So Divine Mother, she's like, nobody wants to see your face.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna turn the lights out. It's gonna turn this place dark.
What?
Guilt City.
Total guilt. We'll see what happens, whether they cooperate or not. Dimmable LEDs. A confluence of sensation and projection and entertainment and thought and memory, all of which is impersonal and arising, spontaneously. It's as much conditioned as it is unconditioned. Its presentation is easily felt as self. Therefore, your consciousness is always dependent on content. As self, consciousness is always dependent on content.
If it was possible to consider everything that is seen and heard and felt and et cetera,
Yes, the big et cetera.
as self, then does that negate the little self?
Well, yeah, sure, why not? It's just,
Sounds like you could state it that way as easily as. you
yeah,
could state
I
it
mean,
that way.
that's the difficulty, the implication, any implication that's felt through the lens of self or imagination or projection.
Which is all I got.
Well, not quite. It's all you have. It's all you have as a metaphoric container.
We're just speaking.
Yes, partly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's fun. If you take a light inventory, not a excruciating inventory like a 12-step inventory, just a very light inventory of what's appearing in present experience. In one case, it's, infinite, overwhelming, and you should pass out. But in another way, it's like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that and big fucking deal. I got this. It's interesting that it can be mind-blowingly nuanced and, to the point of cessation, samadhi, passing out, or non-arising. And it can also be a, very manageable field of elements in consciousness. And one is not at odds with the other. I think the disappointing side of the Tony Parsons style is that he seems to turn this into some kind of a destination.
Just by virtue of his speaking out.
Yeah,
Putting it out like
the frame of reference that he associates with his understanding now becomes, because of its repetitiveness, becomes a fetish or a destination or something that we would measure ourselves against. But that's not what this is. Yeah, it's just happening, but so what? Right?
Seems to be the great corrector, He puts things in the proper way. He expresses things.
Pronoun.
Yeah, but you can also see how tiresome that is, because we're not just investing all of this affection and volunteerism to correct one's vocabulary or phrasing or ideas. That just seems so pedantic in a way, and podiatriastic, like putting your foot in your mouth.
Doing something else in mine.
It's
Yeah.
pedantic and podiatriastic. And,
That's the term.
Oral. well, there's more creativity is my hope. My hope that there's more creativity. There's more to play with.
Yeah, it's pretty stark.
Yeah, and it's not untrue, but it's also not all that, great an idea to emphasize that over and over again. Because it's not just anything. It's not just what Tony Parsons says. It can't be. It just can't be. You could say that, that becomes kind of too limiting. Because the whole not self thing, right, is, again, it's not untrue, but you have to rely on self or the not self to have some, relevance. What if you didn't do that? What if you didn't get caught in the hypnosis of the antithetical?
Well, see, that's the question that always seems to come up. It's like, well, you telling me I can't do anything about it, I mean, that's what he's saying, basically. I mean, it's like I can't lift a finger to it,
But it's not true. It's just not true. It's a lie. He's either we're misunderstanding what he's saying, or he's a dumb fuck poser when it comes to that point.
Well, if I understand him, which I may not, he means Jamie can't. In his case, it's the self can't lift a finger.
Yeah, I could say that, but you could also say all the self is doing is just dying to wake up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all it can do. It's all it ever does, which is just as true as saying there's nothing you can do. It's all this ever does is like knock on its own door. That's all it can do. So fuck you, Tony.
I can understand the correction of the idea of you can't build a knowledge base towards this.
But you can. Look at Buddhism, look at Hinduism, look at yoga, look at
Yeah,
everything.
but does it get you?
Does anything, can anything.
I think it's as likely as not as anything else.
But maybe it's as likely as yes. You see what I mean?
Yeah, because like everything in your experience is just a pointer back to this, so it doesn't fucking matter what
Yeah,
it is.
all you
Like,
got-
where you trying to go.
Yeah.
But
You got
action, just so there's some action, it seems to me.
okay, then sure, yeah, some action. But just to say there's nothing you can do is bullshit. It's just not true. You're already whatever this is or isn't. So doing is not even that important. But whatever you do, lends a hand. Whatever you don't do, lends a hand. Effort's great. Not effort, fantastic.
And
Gaining a knowledge base, fantastic. Dropping it all, okay. Warming up your pizza, great. Self-immolation, fantastic. I don't. It's just too beautiful to be reduced to a Tony Parsonism. That's all.
I have a thought, or a non-thought, a thought of a non-thought.
It looks like you have bunny ears too.
The bunny's gonna be. Well, actually, I saw the play Harvey with my son, and there was some connotations in it around about AA, but there was also like this rabbit was appearing, and nobody else could see him, but
It's a
he was talking to him.
woogie or something, right? A pookie?
Yeah, there was like a shamanic type thing in there. So anyway, so with the rabbit, anyway. But my point,
I am really trying to follow you.
Squirrels.
so
Really. Squirrel.
the other night, Kyle and I meet at Wegmans where we're
Uh-huh.
not allowed upstairs because it's Employee Appreciation Day.
Oh, I hate when I miss those.
We
You can
crashed-
sneak-
yeah, we crashed it last
You sneak
time.
in and get free food.
So, well, that's interesting that you guys.
They had it
happened to be there
outside.
in the front. And Kyle's like, look who is over there. And I'm like, stop messing with me. you're driving me nuts, you're already late, blah, blah, blah. Guess who was it?
I can't guess. Who was it? Stefan Heilicke.
Bill T.
Uh-huh.
So.
Working at Wegmans.
No, he's standing, like he wants to come over to the cafe section, which is really small.
Right.
Otherwise, he could have been like clear across the room and whatever. I might not have seen him.
How amazing if you do. You'd run into him.
So Kyle's like,
Your ex-lover.
isn't this ironic, right?
Right.
So there's a big part of me that wants the battle and the fight and like go up to say something very, cleverly meaning and sarcastic to him.
Okay.
But I refrained and I walked away and I amused myself in their little kitchenette area where I can look at tablecloths and whatever.
Okay.
Then anyway, a series of things occurred along the same lines of this week where I'm up against a person or a concept that I'm in that loop, that knot. What's that called? We're a double bind.
Oh.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Oh.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're up against this situation where you can't win.
But you're always up against that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Well, that's why this is so beautiful.
So in a sense, Bill T has given me this like remarkable
Lesson.
Spiritual revelation.
spiritual revelation that you cannot reason with unreasonable. Do you know what I mean?
Which is yourself.
So you can just let it
Exactly,
go.
like I'm stuck in this situation with these three people
Yeah.
that appear in my squirrel's mind,
Right.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
squirrels are loose and they're appearing with three different people that it's like,
Yes.
can't win with these
No,
three people
no.
How does Harvey the Puka have anything
And you
to
can't
do
get
with
away from it.
because I need an invisible rabbit friend to help me out and
this?
fuck people up with.
Yeah.
She
Somehow
she
you
wants a
might help
rabbit
her
friend
get
that
away
carries a
from
baseball bat.
consciousness.
Yeah, give them a little crack, trip them, whisper something in their ear like you're an idiot. But so it was interesting when you were just talking. I just thought about that. It's like, so if I drop the winning thing,
Okay. Yes.
and I don't need to win. It's just like, okay, I don't need to win this battle. I don't need to prove to you anything. I'm just like, it's frustrating in one way because you want that person, you want yourself to be different. I guess why it's so frustrating to me is that I'm stuck in that loop. Like I want me to be different, or I like want my thinking to be different.
There you go. There's your Byron Katie turnaround.
Is it true that I want my thinking to be different?
Oh, you're
Yes,
just
it's always
not really. You just want to fuck up your enemies.
Yeah.
What?
That could be satisfying too, yes.
Right.
Who would I be without the thought, this is squirrely, or this is like a loop that can't be won?
Yeah.
Who would I be without that thought?
Hmm.
I don't know. Afraid, just like, what the? Why are these people up here?
Can I bring up context again?
Sure. I don't remember putting 86 on context.
I am interested in working on seeing the context as identical with that which is not seen.
Okay. I hear
Okay.
you. Why not? That's a good puzzle.
So, because everything is
Everything is
just this, everything is this,
okay.
but I don't necessarily perceive it that way.
Oh,
I mean,
so
I
you're
have to
just are you
stop
just blowing
and
smoke up our
consider.
ass then?
Yes, I have to stop and consider that this is so. Maybe not all the time. Most of the time, I really just don't think about
Yeah, most of the time you don't even care.
it. But I do have this sort of, I mentioned before,
Yes.
sort of a little bit of a a snobbish attitude toward
Okay.
the,
Well,
let's say, emptiness. That's beautiful. Context, you know, and I'm trying to change that because they're actually identical.
yeah.
How that?
Why not? Well, I mean, the way you're expressing it is, fun. Nothing's actually happening. You're not doing anything. You're working with, dreamed memes because you're the one assigning the meaning to something that's emptiness or not emptiness or context or not context, or whether it's the same as or separate from, whether your rabbit will come to your aid or,
Mhm.
I mean, what?
Okay. I think I get that.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but I think I get it.
It's subtle
I
and
can
it's
leave it
also it's subtle and it's also all you got. You got whatever this is or isn't as it's presenting in your present experience in the way that it is. That's it. Like I said, it could be really small. It's a small inventory. There's some sensation going on, maybe there's thought going on, comfort or discomfort in the body, maybe agitation, maybe not, maybe some quiescence. Simplicity of mind, simplicity of presence.
Okay. In my be the word interpretation
Yes.
of the context, I tend to take it in I tend to chop it up.
Well, it's chop upable.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
what that means.
Well, what we refer to as mind, let's say, nobody knows what mind is, and so you can refer to it 1,000 different ways, and you wouldn't be necessarily wrong or right. There's the presence of discernment, differentiation, objects, sensations, memories, feelings, things that are preferential, things that are not, things that are serendipitous, things that are easily taken for granted. All of this is arising, so-called arising. You could say, it's not happening, but yeah, it's happening. It's fucking happening, right? Or it's just happening, right? Yeah, it's just happening. That which is arising in the way that it's arising, filtered through you, is what's so-called happening. And you can assign and do assign to it, meaning and preference and consequence. And then you try to steer this, mix, this witch's brew of ideas in a so-called direction that appears to be preferential for you, psychiatrically, emotionally, circumstantially, right? Yeah, and there's a bunch of bracing, somnambulism, excitement, engagement. But there's really nothing going on that needs to be reconciled with anything else that's going on. Context and content, sense of self, absence of sense of self. What are they? What? Tell me, are they what?
How would you even figure out if there was self or not? You know what I mean?
You
Who's
you
figuring
wouldn't.
out?
You wouldn't. Yeah,
It's like,
that's right.
And there's no figuring out anyway, right? I mean, it's like, like you're saying, what is there to figure out? I mean, there's nothing. I mean, figuring out sounds like a thought process, and all that also ends up the same place, it seems.
Sure, it always refers back to something which, either is or you want to be somehow experiential. What if all the experiencing can take care of itself? Wouldn't that be strange? if all of the experiencing, that which is experienced, can take care of itself.
That's kind of a cool notion.
Okay. That's
Well,
why
since-
we get the big donations.
Since we are the,
Take it on the road. Take that one on the road, Jeff.
Yeah, really. I can't even get invited to places that I try to invite myself to.
special,
Yeah, really.
Like I'm experiencing this, that, that's exactly what I was just thinking too. It's like,
I was reading your mind.
yeah, it was me. It was all about me. Yeah, I mean, you can't win. You know what I mean? You can't prove to this person that they're an idiot. You can't prove that that thing is an idiot. You can't.
No,
So
a lot of good it'll
just
do
let
you.
it
Yeah.
whoosh on by.
I don't
Just,
know.
Okay.
I don't know. There's no.
Push on by.
Hand
mean-
it to the rabbit. The rabbit will deal with it.
That's a good handoff right there. Just give it to the rabbit.
It's a cookie. It's a special kind of, it's invisible. You said
Mine's a
movie.
wolf. Hand it to your spirit animal.
Yeah,
You
worst
know?
case scenario, blame it on your imaginary friend.
Well, once you start,
Maybe best case scenario.
Didn't work out too well.
Drop dead Fred.
you could say people in recovery, have a lot to gain by making progress within the body of the step work, namely their lives. So when we approach things, from a recovery kind of bias, we have tools, right? And phrases and all kinds of pop notions of how to, reconfigure, right? How to re-relate, reconfigure to whatever stress we imagine is occurring so that we can see through the implications of our own bracing or resistance, or turning fatigue, anger, hunger, into permission to act out, permission to use. So from that point of view, it's good to have a handful of tools at the ready, like placing a call to your sponsor, or, doing some fourth step work, reading a book, going to a meeting, of course, right? Rethinking and reconfiguring the habits that, dysfunctional habits that gave you some kind of permission or justification to use. Because your life is on the line, right? Your sobriety is on the line, your job, your marriage, your children, everything's on the line. Depending, of course, how severe an addict you have been or might be if you don't, right? Commit and recommit, commit and recommit, commit and recommit. Now, we tend to take that same kind of bias into how we frame or experience our experiencing, meaning report upon our lives, right? Like, I'm going to do this in the future. I'm just going to let this happen. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this, right? So you end up, one can become kind of a preemptive strategist, which is its own burden, which is its own sorrow.
Because it never works in my case anyway.
It doesn't
and then
work.
I'm like frustrated with myself
That's right. It doesn't work,
for
and
nothing.
it doesn't work, and you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So what happens if we drop the tendency to create mental or behavioral strategies? You are profoundly improvisational. You are profoundly intelligent. You can see through things, you can read through things, you can smell them a mile away. You can. So why not relinquish your stratagems to your own inherent sensitivity and intelligence, and not know what you're going to do with or about anything. Be light that way, which is you're not bracing, you're not in anticipation of things going sour and then how you're going to sweeten them. Yeah, that's nicer.
I think, and maybe I'm all wrong, but I think that fear is what motivates a person to have a plan. So going directly into that fear is freeing in those situations. You know, when you're looking for a substance.
Oh, sure, yeah, right. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that are helpful. But, you know, thanks to Tony Parsons, you're not doing it. And if it works, it's not because of you. Like Noha or no whatever is saying, it's just happening. It's just happening. Yeah. But there's a playfulness to it. There's a sprightly, impish playfulness to it. There's a miraculous improvisational bandwidth of incredible sensitivity available to you as you from so-called moment to moment to moment, because you're not actually bound by life circumstances. So even having strategies on how you might live with the exigencies of your life is, I could argue, for fun, a total waste of your time.
It's impossible. It's like when you walk into Wegmans and all your fucking nightmares just pop out. Dude, you got nothing. You're just like,
You got nothing.
that's all you're doing.
Yep.
Because you can't plan for
You
some
might as well
shit you
head-
don't know what's gonna happen.
Just head straight for the Oreos. Yep.
Right. In my mind, everybody else has good strategies, is very creative, or articulate, knows how to deal with those kind of sudden appearances.
So are you.
My best strategy is handing it off to the rabbit.
But that's a beautiful strategy. You know, that's a shamanic
That's a
strategy.
good one.
Yeah, hand it off to the rabbit.
Just
That
look
is.
over and go, what do you think we should do?
Yeah, really. So, rabbit, how much trouble do you think we're in?
I mean, I do that with Fred, and it's not that much different.
Not really.
Fred, what do you think we should do?
I vote for eat something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing a biscuit can't cure.
I was listening to Peter Brown, and he's like, you know, like he says a million times over, this isn't about anything. And I looked at Fred and went, not even snacks. And in my imagination, he was like, now you've gone too far.
Now you've gone too far. Listen, you want to do that Peter Brown shit? That's up to you.
This is not okay.
He said snacks.
Don't-
Where's that snacks?
Don't trespass on my snacks.
Bitch.
Shit.
This non-duality, you've taken this too far. Yeah. I mean, your aspiration, which also goes against the grain of there's nothing you can do. Your aspiration becomes more fine-tuned.
I
Because
mean, we're human beings. Let's have some fun.
that's one way to go, right? Mhm.
Well, maybe we are human beings, but what the fuck does that mean? I mean, it's kind of a
Not
funny,
much.
you know, it's like if what scale are you looking at human being? You know what I
Well-
mean? Like, are you a solar system or are you like a tiny biological? You know, I mean,
You know, when I
because you could be either one.
and when I'm talking about human beings, I'm talking
You-
about some mind body type of thing. You know,
People that go to friends meetings.
You could be like something bigger than the Milky Way, or you could be
smaller.
a tiny little dude on the planet.
But I think the
Depends what scale you're like.
the
framing it
message
through.
was that he's capable of having fun, whatever it is.
Believe it or not,
I don't
That
think
thing
so.
over there can have
you
fun.
don't think so, right?
Well, that's suspicious.
We know what you're capable of. Whatever framework arises in experience that insists that it is a legitimate framework through which to see, filter, or experience your present experience is, you could say, suspicious. But we get wrapped up in, easily wrapped up, you know, emotionally wrapped up in a set of frameworks that somehow strangely please us at the same time that they're infuriating us. And oftentimes it feels like we just can't wiggle free of the influence of this predominant framework. So we therefore have a kind of, I would argue, somewhat of a narrow and repetitive bandwidth with respect to living our lives. That becomes now a very intimate exploration. To even consider that there is a preponderance of repetition in the bandwidth through which or with which you lead your life. Just to see that is strangely mind-blowing, because you've gotten enough distance away from your narcissistic inclinations to reconsider the right texture of your conditioning. Not that many people are really interested in even, I'm talking baby steps here, not big spiritual experience, just fucking baby steps, just a little bit off to the left, a little bit off to the right, maybe a few inches behind. And you're like, God, am I boring?
Am I what?
Boring.
Even
I-
myself.
That's what I'm saying. Am I boring? I forget about everyone else. They don't care about me anyway. I mean, no one cares about you, which is a nice thing to hear. No one really cares.
It is a nice thing because it's more freeing in some, you know, you're not a slave to anybody. Nobody cares. There's no, all of those other frameworks that come with
Yeah.
feeling that someone cares about you.
Yeah.
Is like, they can all be like, oh, psh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Untethered.
So you can just shift a little bit this way or shift a little bit that way, and you can see, oh my God, why do I continue to think in the way that I think about the shit that I think about? And the condemnation of it, the thickness of it, the regret, the vehemence,
Worst case scenario.
The attention
survival
seeking.
handbook. Rarely do we ever take a little bit of a electron orbit leap to embrace ourselves in the way that we are so familiar to ourselves. We think that
oh, this is as good as it gets. You know, I'm is as good as it gets. My content, what I'm sensitive to feeling, is it. It takes a little unnerving to reconsider what you might be capable of noticing or feeling or seeing, being touched by. Other vocabularies, other language, other memes, other implications.
It strikes me that as you kind of essentially let go of things because you're, I feel like there's things that they don't excite me that much anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
so, they just sort of get smoothed over and you bypass a lot of that stuff. But then it's almost like, well, okay, so now what? What's next? And so, but I don't think there would be this and now what if that was still actively popping, if all this other stuff was like gratifying somehow. So,
Yeah.
I think there is essentially a learning or realization, I guess, that all this jazzy stuff that might have held your interest is not really holding any interest anymore.
That's an interesting process, path, journey to see. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but there's still this energy underneath, and it's like this energy is like, well, and
it is. I know.
So it's like, where do you get it? And really,
Right.
it seems to be that it's more become to a more of a distillation process. It's not all this glam stuff. And by glam stuff, I mean, hanging out with the buds at the bar or whatever, however you get your rocks off.
Yeah, whatever it is that you're, doing.
It was a little disconcerting because music but that's repetition too. And I'm not one to experiment too much with music.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
I've certainly never heard it sung.
Yeah.
That was the original.
We're considering a rather profound, a rather discontinuous sensitivity. So that present experience is not hijacked by the repetition of self and then condemned to be felt as a person on a planet. So the unlearning, the reconsideration of the evidence at hand can be absolutely fun. And we can see as we play with it, let's say, as we reconsider the evidence at hand, we will come to notice the incredible appetite for repetition appearing in our experience, right? The repetition of knowledge and assertion and presumption and space and time and self and memory and identity.
Story.
Yeah, all of which comes as, story. Or even subtler than story, appears as a kind of a preemptive identification, a preconditioned identification that story appears to reinforce. Yeah. I mean, it's very curious to consider the nature of your own arising without taking anything at all for granted. Huh, that's shit. What the fuck? without taking anything at all for granted, this being as it is, right on.
Can I split hairs? And you
Would it
can-
do me any good to say
and
no?
Well, I'd like to know if you think that I'm just being stupid, just so you can say
Yeah,
something.
you're pretty stupid.
Okay, but wait till you hear it. This particular,
Oh, yeah, I want me to hear it first.
this particular hair
You need to
splitting.
reserve judgment until I get the hair splitting.
So you said, now I don't exactly remember, but
Sorry.
you said consider the arising, and the hair splitting is,
Yeah,
if you consider the arising,
yes.
you're going to miss it because you're considering it.
Okay, yes, of course.
Blah.
Yeah, meaning you're not open to it. Because you're,
Meaning that if
Because
there's
you're like-
any kind of,
you're putting some pressure on
if
it.
there's any kind of gears going, any kind of gears, but I mean, I really want to know if that's, you know.
Well, again, it depends on how thick you want to make it. I can't possibly be speaking through any sense of authority, or there can't be any reliable consequences to what I might be, musing about. There just can't be, because this is just evaporating, right? It's a sand trap. It's disappearing out from under your feet. So these kinds of poetic liaisons are just a way of, conjuring texture. And by conjuring textures in your experience, in our, call it mutual experience, if there were such a thing, then your attention, your sensitivity gets a chance to swim a little bit.
Mhm.
You
It's
just,
a sense for what that is. in
Yeah.
some way.
that's right. You have to back off from the dock and, take a few strokes out to the middle of the lake and not know. And just feel what your present experience feels like in the way that it does, without having to fulfill something that Tony Parsons says, or I would say, and I don't put ourselves in the same ballpark. He's actually a legitimate, realized guy, or Novato, whatever her name is, right? Yeah. You consider your present experience in light of what? In light of your present experience. With what do you got? Well, you got the weird radiant texture of your present experience. And if you're not running a deep story, which is part of, you could say the beauty of getting together is the opportunity to participate, volunteer in a relaxed, loquacious environment where you don't have to be running, a fuckload of story. It's a lullaby. This is a lullaby. And as you find yourself in a circumstance with other people where you are given permission, encouraged to just not run story, to let your present awareness and the textures of present experience kind of float freely, reconsider yourself, an opportunity to recalibrate, reconsider yourself, then that's nice. That's nice. It's egalitarian, right? We can't insist what this is or isn't. I mean, there's no point in repeating something that sounds like some kind of a non-dual truism. Well, fuck that. That stuff's trivial. You always want to stay ahead of the curve. When they're writing Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, or Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, you want to be, at the Advaita of motorcycle maintenance. And if someone starts writing the Advaita of motorcycle maintenance, like Wayne Lickerman and other people, or Paul Hederman making a living, or Adyashanti making a living commenting on the Bible or the 12 steps, right? Everyone's got a fucking book commenting on the fucking 12 steps. You want to be one step ahead of these fuckers all the time. Because they're dead.
They've settled on something.
That's right. They're settled on something and they're They're spewing out another, piece of written literature to a jaded audience.
But yeah, and it's funny because they've settled, they're able to attract an audience.
That's right.
Because people can get some kind of framework together. When you jump around a lot, there's no framework, and it's like people are like, I don't know.
This is this quality of being together is the fruit of, call it stillness practice, the fruit of mindfulness, the fruit of, meditation, becomes interactive, becomes thoughtful and considerate and imaginative. The mindfulness speaks. Mindfulness speaks. Books about silence speaks. This is mindfulness speaks. Mindfulness feels. But not mindfulness, from the point of view of, that guy in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is, I'm trying to think of his name.
Yeah.
I can
He
see.
run like an entire mindfulness program. He gets
You
like
mean like
talks
John
and
Kabat-Zinn or
lectures.
something?
Yeah, Zen, the Zenster. His friends
The
call him
Zenster.
the Zenster,
The Zen Meister.
Zenmeister. Yeah. John Cabot Rope-a-Dope. Yeah. We don't want to enroll in a fucking mindfulness program.
It's another program.
This is nothing. This is way more fun than mindfulness. This is actually nothing. Which suggests you can really play with this shit. You can really enjoy yourself. You can bust free of mindfulness. You can bust free of programs. You can bust free of whether this is happening or not happening, or whether it's happening to you. You're like, I don't give a shit about any of that. And by losing the loyalty that we might have for these kinds of, programs or, dead philosophies, you have a chance to, push off from the dock and go out to the deep part of the lake. Oh, what the fuck? You're not bound by having been something, hoping that by doing something, you'll become something other. You're just not bound by it. You're not bound by time, or that you used to be something and it sucked, and you're giving it your best effort for it to stop sucking so much. It's like even that, it's just gone, really gone. You liquidate in your own shoes. Representation may appear, but you don't wrap it around your neck. It's not like you're completely undistracted, but you're not completely distracted. I mean, God, really, really feel the novelty of each passing, each beat, each breath, the novelty of each beat, the novelty of each breath, the novelty of it all, without going to objects. Fuck, I mean, you're really just pouring forth in absolute disembodied novelty. I don't want to have a strategy. That would ruin everything. Here it is, right? The unabashed presentation of absolute unfettered novelty. Just like this. Figure what out? Do what about what? Anticipate what? Brace for what? You are the living revelation of novelty, with no grasping, no boundary, no content.
You know, I can just hang out in this spaciness, I'll put it.
Yeah.
But the spaciness is, there's not the strong pull that maybe I would have had before about some intellectual dialogue or something like that, although that may go on.
Well, that's a hallelujah right there.
Yeah. I mean, but it goes on in a more casual way, you know, it's just going on. It's what's going on. It's what's for dinner. You know, but there is the spaciness, and the fruit seem to be the spaciness. I don't know. Is that, I mean,
That's right.
maybe it's just an immature
Not necessarily, no.
thing.
What do you got? You have this luscious spaciness. That's the fabric of reality. That's the fruit. Novelty. The simple observation of absolute novelty, felt very intimately, as in presently. Like you would see a beautiful tree or a beautiful face or a beautiful something. Here you are staring into your original face, which is speechless novelty. See, from this, you could say, you know, spaciness, right? Texture, weave. Context is an idea. Content is an idea. That something could be other than something else, or that, you know, some kind of preferred merging would benefit us somehow. It's like, huh? What? If you don't produce the world, well, then you don't have to remedy it.
That's a nice one. That's a nice postcard.
We're loaded with them. Should start selling them.
That one about the bitch.
The bitch one's good,
I was
yeah.
trying to remember.
I like that. It's a good one. Yep. If you don't produce the world, well, you don't have to remedy it.
The pressure is off.
The pressure's on.
It's pretty ridiculous that, in my opinion, anybody thinks they're going to remedy anything anyway. You know, but
Well, we got Bernie, man. Come on,
Feel the burn.
feel the burn. You gotta believe.
I'm a believer in the Bieber.
And the beaver?
Bieber, Justin Bieber.
What, Zoolander or something?
It's just a saying.
Oh,
Jamie's a believer in the beaver.
I'm a believer in the Bieber.
well, Beaver's a beaver.
Mhm.
What about Martha Stewart did a roast of Justin Bieber and she was there?
Ah, I gotta look it up.
It's funny. He was being roasted and she was being.
It could turn out to be in your favor somehow. To feel what it feels like not to produce the world. Get used to it. Discover that your affection, present affection, is capable of resting, free from the impulse to produce the world. That would certainly be more to the point than spending a life cultivating remedies. You know, teachings that are sold that become a Eckhart Tolle calendar. These fall within the realm of remedy.
Yeah,
Just
that's
fucking turn
pretty
everything
goddamn
into calendar.
scary, thanks.
It's just funny. Because we do, we just turn everything into a fucking
Yeah,
calendar.
Power of now calendar. Eckhart, is it still now or is it like Saturday? Oprah Winfrey must have a calendar, doesn't she? Or
Everybody
Wayne
has a
Dyer?
fucking calendar.
Wayne Dyer has a
With
calendar.
cute
It's a
sayings
posthumous
and pretty pictures.
calendar.
Everybody.
Everyone's got a calendar. Deepak Chopra's got a calendar, right? Does Byron Katie have a calendar? We should
Sure,
do
sure,
one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really been on Byron Katie, but anyone that's selling anything generally seems
My
Generally has a
cousins
calendar,
my cousins
sooner or
have
later.
a calendar.
Your cousins do?
Yeah,
All right.
damn bitches.
What's their calendar about?
It has pretty pictures, maybe that they took somewhere, or maybe that they just, got offline. And it says, William Shank and Sons Construction Company.
Oh.
They stole from my father.
Those are your cousins, right? The Shanks? Yeah, right. I know those guys.
The guy that owns my property is a calendar, and he gave it to me and said, "So you can plan your year." It's like, I'll be lucky if I get through the next
Beth could
hour
use-
planning.
Beth could use a calendar if you have a
That's
nice.
probably why you gave it to me. You saw that.
She needs one. She's looking for a 2016 calendar with big boxes that she can write in her appointments. Yeah. She's not a digital gal. She's an analog gal when it comes to calendars.
I'm
Me
with you.
too.
I like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
habit.
Now that we got
I'd like to
that-
just let my life go to shit.
Yeah. I keep using 2013 calendar and I can't get to any appointment on
Do you know
time.
what's funny? I randomly typed in like Night Sky Sangha calendar instead, or something instead
Uh-huh.
of just Night Sky Sangha, and somehow I got the 2014 calendar up on the web today, and I was like, "What am I looking at right now?" It said Craniosacral and Peter Brown Retreat.
Oh.
Oh, wow,
And
cool.
it was 2014. I was like,
Nice.
Hey, we were having rock hops and everything
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Oh, we should do a dance, yeah. We'll do a
What were
dance.
you having a few years ago?
Jeff brought together sort of a rock and roll type
It's a
dance.
donkey.
"And donkey."
What
It
was
was
it?
pretty cool. It was several.
Dance your ass off. Ask your dance off.
Ask your
Ask your dance off.
Yep.
dancer.
Pebble Hill gave me a problem about that. I don't believe
Listen, they just enjoy giving you problems.
Oh,
so.
about the fact that you used the word ass.
Ass. Ask your dance off with a picture of a donkey. Yeah, that was
Well,
a
everyone
problem.
does that. They're
Oh,
just people are
good Lord.
stupid. We were just saying. I guess people have
People are
issues.
stupid.
People have issues with the Damn Cafe. It's called Damn
Oh,
Good Cafe.
Damn Good,
and
yeah,
the
right.
woman's like,
Oh.
there's a dam around the corner, and my last name is Dam. Like, it
Oh,
really
right.
has nothing to do with, like
Uh-huh.
a donkey is an ass. Like, it's not even a curse word. It's just,
Yeah.
Who cares? if
He meant it
it's-
like-
Jeez.
We're just that
Jackass yourself in
immature.
that.
It's like we can't wait to make anything, turn anything into something.
Pretty much goes that way.
I was walking past the table
And you
today,
turn something into something.
and they were from Australia or somewhere, and they said, these Americans, they just like to complain about everything. So there you have it.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we'll take you to the airport.
Well, they were complaining.
They were making an observation.
Yeah, well, that's what a complaint is.
So you do this poetic mindfulness encounter. You feel what it feels like not to create the world, to be free from the implication of requiring a remedy. And that's what you do. That's what there is to do. You do that, and you can do that. And you can do it more than once. And you can return to it. You can feel it. You can feel it again. You can actually invite the harmonic of revelation and the harmonic of realization into your life through, dare I say, effortful volunteerism. Because you're capable of feeling this without creating a world and being free from the myth and implication of requiring a remedy. That's not so difficult. And that's what happens. You invite that into your life, like you would go bowling or watch the newsroom or Lucifer. You invite that feeling into your life. You're fond of it. So you do things, go places, make appointments, hang out with people in a certain way where that is honored, respected, understood, true, reinforced. And then you bring that out into your life in the way that you do with the people that you meet or encounter. And you more depthfully feel what this feels like when you don't create a world. You don't know when, it's going to sneak up on you and then, whoosh, right? Go to the other side of the seesaw. So at the early stages of this, there's a lot of, call it, hormonal imperative, distraction imperative. And so you start eking out your mindfulness practice in the way that you do, right? It could be recovery, or it could be evangelical relation with Jesus or ayahuasca, or all of those at the same time. Right? And why not? Why not? Yeah. And so you go to retreats and you make commitments and you read books and you go to the Clearwater Sangha and shit. And you figure this out. You relax through it. As you mature, you discard a bunch of stuff that used to speak to you somehow. And you find new things that speak to you more deeply, more to the core of you as you come to understand the core of you more depthfully. Yeah. And then you discard another bunch of stuff, and then you move on to some other more subtle material, and you're following this scent of release from the world, release from remedy. That's how it feels. And you do that. You actually fucking do that. Fuck you, Tony Parsons. Really, that shit pisses me off. Now, you could say there's no guarantee or causal relationship between whatever you may cultivate in the beauty of your life and, getting some kind of slam bang, spiritual event. But guess what? There needn't be. There needn't be. You just keep relaxing. You just keep chilling out according to your
Yeah,
nature.
why
According,
stress out over that?
according, people do.
Sure.
So many do, and part of that problem is because Tony Parsons and other motherfuckers like him teach the way that they teach. They sell the way that they sell. They create the the shallow projection of celebrity, enlightened meat with their vocabulary. So silly. Much nicer to just like, oh yeah, this shit's awake. Fuck yeah, I'm awake. I like the way this feels. Fuck yeah. That's what you do. Apply yourself because you're conscious, because you're vivid, because you're novel. You're not inert. You're not a victim of anything. You are this. You are the novelty that this is. How is it possible that there's nothing you can do? It's crazy.
There is nothing you can do.
And there's nothing you can
That's the
do.
answer.
Yeah.
Well, it
But
doesn't
that
quite
doesn't
make
mean-
sense. It depends who you're talking about. You know what I mean? Are you talking?
That's just it.
What defines you? Like, I mean, you
That's
got to
right.
define so much shit to even make that dumb statement.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's
You're the
funny.
entirety of whatever it is
doesn't
that's
condemn you to
occurring.
not
Then
doing
you're
it.
doing all of it,
Or to doing
and
it.
so
Yes. What's uncanny is the fractal revelation of your present experience. How that languages itself can say anything it wants. It can say there's nothing you can do and feel, wow. Or it could say there's nothing you can do and feel like, ugh. Or you could say, do everything. Wow, do everything. Oh.
yeah, the
Well,
same.
that's it. I was getting like, there's nothing I can do about this. This is like
Yes.
terminal.
Yeah,
This person is never going to change. There's nothing I can do about this.
that's right.
Or I can be like,
There's nothing I can do.
there's nothing I can do about this. I can't
I
even
can
do a
wash my hands
fucking
of it."
thing about myself.
There you go.
Can't do anything about you, but I don't need to step in that dirty pond anymore.
Okay. There you go.
You know, I don't need to go listen to idiot number whatever next door say something stupid. You know what I mean? I don't need to step in that dirty pond anymore.
That's true.
I probably will step in it again.
Okay, but that's because you're a loyal friend.
You know?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, feeling your presence, noticing that it's not necessary to create a world, that there is no secular reality that is imposing upon you.
Imposing upon me.
There's nothing is
They have
imposing upon you.
imposed upon me.
No,
And there's the selfing.
that's right. That's right.
I'm still at, I mean, to a lesser degree, I'm still attached to things, people, places, and things.
Oh, you say that now.
Maybe I don't have to be in the near future.
It's just that any association that you may make presently with people, places, and things is, an idea. You don't really know what you are. You can't really say, I'm attached to anything.
No, I guess I can't really, but
You might like to think that you're attached to things. Or you might like to think that there are things that you would prefer being attached to. But that's just creating a world. You're creating a world. So Tony Parsons is not saying any more or less than what we're playing around with. He may be a little bit glib. And there's no real need to draw attention to himself about what his experience or his so-called condition is. Because it's quite clear he has no experience and he has no condition. That can be, taken out of the closet or shown to anyone. So I think it's just more fun to, chill out and play around with the texture of non-arising in the midst of nonstop arising. There's no stress. Trying to explain it or the so-called implications of it to someone, again, just becomes kind of a curious philosophical exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, gets pretty tiresome after a while.
Yeah. Hour and a half of that
That's right.
kills every minute of that hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting kind of seems to be a shift between like sort of realization like service. We were talking about service for some recently, I don't know, but service being either you actively physically doing something
Uh-huh.
or basically trying to prove your point,
Right.
telling someone something,
Yeah.
as opposed to just being available and present
Uh-huh.
as service.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different kind of way of seeing that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what are you saying about it though? Are you making this statement? What's your point?
Never mind.
Oh, I don't know.
It's not really, it's something he said, it's the same thing he said earlier, just used it with a different word. Not a big deal.
Our habit is to project and create a world that we find ourselves in as a creature, right? That's what we do. We externalize the appearance of a world that we find ourselves in as a creature. So then circumstances and events are an imposition. If they don't go our way, they're an imposition even if they go our way, because they're non-satisfactory, even if you win. And that's why you could say we become neurotically extinction bent, like hell bent, on trying to win and trying to win and trying to win and trying to get satisfaction from the mirage of having created a world where circumstances and events are binding on self and need to turn out a certain way for us to be secure. And no security ever comes, regardless of the wealth and the power and the violation of the wealth and the power. Hmm. Hmm. Somebody can piss you off. Someone can take advantage of you. They can manipulate you. They can lie to you. You know, you can get invested. You can get angry and hurt and anxious and roil around in it for a while. What the F? That's cool.
But you just don't need to step in that dirty pond.
When you don't need to, you don't need to. Yeah, that's right. As these habits, right? Habits of engagement. Relax. They are reconsidered. They are refabricated. You could call it, neuronal patterns or sparking wider possibility, wider elasticity. So behaviorally and identity-wise, it becomes, more organic, more natural to sidestep certain kind of conflict, certain kind of disappointment.
I think you like the fight. I like, there's a part of me that likes.
I would never have said that about you.
Well, she can say it about herself.
Careful, Jeff. I got rabbits and wolves on my side.
Yeah, really.
And squirrels are leading.
Rabbits,
so-
wolves, and squirrels. Just imagine all that in your house.
But they're all invisible.
As if he's never had a fight himself.
That's right.
Projection there.
That's all I got.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because I was thinking about that. You kind of like you went to fight.
There you go. That's the gusto.
What's your group about? Our group is about a fight.
Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club. There is no Fight Club. Imagine an invitation to absolute cessation is presented to you. How many reasons might you have to say no thanks? It's kind of that simple. I got all this shit to do and these obligations and there's stuff I haven't shared with my kids or my wife or because if I just disappeared suddenly, like in a car accident or something, boy, it would leave, just a mess of unfinished business behind. And so you can create like 1,000 no thank yous in an instant. If someone says to you, ticket to cessation? Ticket to cessation? Oh, no. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
But
I'm too busy.
yeah, really.
Check
What?
back in a year.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Can I meet you here on Wednesday? You see? It's really funny because that's what we're up against. We are,
Out of control.
well, yeah, you're being invited. You're being solicited. Jean Klein used to use that word a lot. You're being solicited. It is stalking you. Yeah.
It's a little different. It's a little different stock.
I like the stalking part.
Solicitors do stalk.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. Especially when you owe somebody money.
And stalkers don't solicit. They just-
Okay.
I never heard back
Just
from
go to a
that.
car dealership
Ah,
and look for a car. You don't watch yourself get solicited and stalked.
I never heard back from that Byron Katie gal when I sent her my resume.
Who did you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you
What
send
a
her that one?
shock.
Did you?
That was a fun one.
That was
Hmm?
good.
Did you see it? She was the one that listed
Everybody's always like
all
highlighting
her
all
child
the dumb
birth,
shit they think they've done in their
all
life.
these items on her CV.
It's just funny.
She mentioned.
She did. She said, "You're
Why
funny."
is it so
Childbirth.
socially unacceptable to
She
just be like,
She
I'm a
put
loser.
noteworthy. Lamar is under
Today, I
Oh, as
exceeded
a-
losership.
She-
Lightning experiences?
She put a date
Tenfold.
on a sheet about herself with her credentials.
I remember you were talking.
I sent it to her.
Yeah, that's why I need a paper calendar. I don't remember my life.
She never
How
responded.
big is this hat? That big? Could you just print
Surprise.
one out every month? I've
No,
done
I
that.
just got, it's a new year and I didn't get the new one.
Yeah, but you could print one out.
I left in the States.
When you have
And
when you have a popular and successful
under $3.
when you have a popular and successful life helping people, you don't have time for comedic assholes. You're too important, you're too busy, you're too successful helping people.
But we got a laugh out of it, so we didn't need her to be
That's all we're looking for.
interested.
Just a little chuckle. Chuckle a day.
Although really, I don't find any greater fault with that than any other CV or resume type of thing. I
I
mean, they're
can't
all like
believe she
that.
mentioned her childbirth. I mean,
I
I
thought-
have never seen that.
I know, that's very
Anywhere.
unusual, but like,
Two of them.
I don't know what position she's going for. If she's going for the position of just getting other women interested in her thing, well, that's pretty good, I guess.
Saying she had no experience for childbirth.
Because it was
She was
underwater
a
Lamaze,
successful
and I guess
athlete of some
less
sort.
people have that.
I just thought
so
the
that
first
makes it
one was the
special.
best. I was like, I'm
You
good
know?
right there. Like, I was a successful athlete.
Did she say that?
She was the youngest in,
oh,
that's
in
right.
the Olympic, something to do with
Track.
boats, I forget,
Gives a
sail,
fuck.
in Korea.
Yeah, that was.
Korea Seoul
Oh
Olympics.
my
or something.
goodness.
Seoul
Korea?
Olympics.
I
No,
don't think
that's
so. She just,
it. She was there then. She was the
Native
youngest
Korean.
participating.
she would have listed that.
I am a proud Korean American.
Her name may not sound like it, but
This is it's an occupational life is an occupational hazard. Trying to get our lives right through emotional forbearance and Buddhistic paramis, the perfection of things, and shit like compassion, useless shit like compassion, stuff like that.
That you get paid for.
Really,
Paid me, I'm
Then-
passionate.
where you could see how we are enrolled in the myth of humandom, behaviorism, circumstance and outcome and preference and consequence, and always projecting in the future about how things or we or the world are going to be better by virtue of the choices that we make. And this is just absolute hallucination. Real or unreal? I don't know. It's hallucination. If hallucination is appearing, then it's real. Or if hallucination is appearing, it's unreal. I don't know what to call it. But you can see that there's no, you can feel that there's no mirthful intelligence that gets lit when you continue to be enrolled in the never-ending loop and circle of trying to perfect yourself as a human in time, as a creature in time. It just blows, man. It just really blows. So all of this stuff that speaks to that enrolls its students and devotees and cash-paying, right, multi-level marketing thing into the myth of human, the myth of the idealized human. It's like, holy fuck. Maybe it's a little more radical or strange, or in my case, I would say it's just a lot more satisfying. It's a lot more nourishing to reconsider and reconfigure that this might not be something I need to do anything about to optimize the human. That in itself is a profound window into, liberation, and therefore, you could argue maybe a little bit rarefied.
I think so.
I thought this was anti-gravity pizza. You just throw it up and it stays. I was mistaken.
Did they get that or that?
And then he threw his pizza.
Aren't we on the space station and pizza just kind of like floats around?
Well, at least it landed on the corner,
You
know,
managed
so
to
it
not
didn't
drop
go
the
face
pizza on the
down.
floor.
No,
Oh,
I'm such a loser.
you
I
can put that on your resume, on your CV.
perpetually drop my own pizza.
Dropped pizza on the floor
What a
at
bummer.
Sangha.
Yeah.
One time when I was in the middle of saying something really profound, I dropped my pizza on the
I
floor.
just dropped my pizza.
It was awesome. One time in 1992,
Well, 2014.
2014.
That's when everything happened.
Wonderful.
Well, that's pretty much that. It ran just like a Tony Parsons meeting. You don't know him?
I don't really
Come on.
either. I think I just saw him talk
He's,
once and I hated him, and that was enough for me.
He
There you go.
smiles a lot, and I think he giggles.
Looks like Satan.
Lucifer? Are we back on Lucifer?
Any
I
questions?
keep forgetting to bring money. Have it down.
That's a likely story. I'll just throw a slice of pizza in the
That's a
envelope.
likely story.
With this in that envelope?
I don't know. It's for the church, not for me. It's all for a good cause.
I actually don't have $1 back coins.
See if I can put them in there. I don't want you cursing me later.